One of my pet peeves is when people confuse race with nationality, ethnicity, or culture. I've heard people say things like, he's not white, he's French. Okay. Or, he's not black, he's Jamaican. Now, of course, both French and Jamaican are nationalities, and a person could be any race. But to say someone is not black or white, they're Jamaican or French, implies that French or Jamaican are races, when this is simply not correct. Of course, the majority of French people may be white, the same as the majority of Jamaicans may be black, but they're still not races because there are black French people and there are white Jamaicans. This leads on to the Latino Hispanic issue. A lot of people assume that Latino or Hispanic is a race. Sometimes you hear people talk about a multitude of races and they'll say things like black, white, Asian, Hispanic, etc., etc. But Hispanic and Latino are not races. Now, the census says it all. It says, please answer both questions 8 about Hispanic origin and question 9 about race. For this census, Hispanic origins are not races. So for question 8, it says, is person 1 of Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin? And if they were, you would select whether they were Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Dominican, Nicaraguan, Argentinian, Colombian, and whatever. Then you have to answer question 9. And it says, what is person 1's race? So you would select what race of Hispanic they are. You'd select whether they were white, whether they were a black Hispanic, a Native American Hispanic, an Asian Indian Hispanic, a Chinese Hispanic, a Japanese Hispanic. So even on the census, it lets you know that Hispanic and Latino are not races. So what does Latino or Hispanic mean? Firstly, Hispanic is a culture. It's a combination of food, music, art, clothes, tradition, styles, language, and so on. And the thing with culture is that anyone can adopt a culture. You can marry into a different culture, live in a country, and take on their culture. But anyone can't just change their race. Your DNA isn't going to change, no matter what you do. So in order to be Hispanic, you need to be part of the culture, either born into it, raised in the culture, marry into the culture, or even just take on the culture. There are also subcategories of the Hispanic culture, because the Hispanic culture in the Caribbean is very different to the Hispanic culture in Latin America. Mexicans, Colombians, Panamanians, Dominicans, and so on all have their own Hispanic culture, which is unique and specific to their countries. A woman once asked me if she was Hispanic. She was a black woman who was adopted by an African American couple who raised her as their own in their culture. So she grew up in an Afro-American culture. She found out that her biological parents were black Puerto Ricans that were black. She said, Angel, does that mean I'm not black? Does that mean I'm Hispanic? So I explained to her that Hispanic was not a race and that she was indeed black. But I also told her that she was not Hispanic as she was never raised in the culture and she hasn't taken on the culture. But that could change if she decided to adopt the culture. Think of Lupita Nyong'o. Her parents are from Kenya. She's clearly black. But she was born in Mexico. She was raised in a Luo African culture, but she was also part of the Hispanic Mexican culture. Is Lupita a Latina? Yes, she's a Kenyan and she's Latina. She's an Afro-Latina. Like myself, for example, my father is a black Jamaican and my mother is a biracial Puerto Rican. Am I half Hispanic? Not really. I never identified with Hispanic culture simply because I wasn't raised by my Puerto Rican side. I was raised by my Jamaican side. I don't speak Spanish. I don't practice very much of any Hispanic culture at all. So okay, if Hispanic is a culture, then what's a Latina or a Latino? Surely that must be a race, right? No, it's not. A Latino is simply someone from a country in Latin America. These are countries that were colonized at one point by Spaniards and Portuguese. And the reason Latino is not a race is because you can be any race and be from Latin America. All of the following pictures that you're seeing are all people that clearly look black or of African descent. If you don't speak to them, you'll never know their names. You'll never know what job they do, where they're from, or anything, pretty much other than what you see. And what we can all agree on is that all of these people are undeniably black. But another thing all of these people have in common is that they are all Hispanic, Latino, or Latina. But they're all also black, not half black and half Latino, but 100% Latino or Hispanic and 100% black. Black is their race, Hispanic is their culture, and Latino or Latina will represent that they are from Latin America. But a lot of people, when they think of a Hispanic or Latino person, they automatically think of Jennifer Lopez, Ava Longoria, Sofia Vergara, Mark Anthony. But these people do not represent what all Hispanic people look like, or even their race. These are just the mainstream celebrities that are well known for being Hispanic or Latino. Sometimes people visualize a person with light to caramel skin with thick curly hair and full lips when they think of a Latino or Hispanic. But if you really look at those people look like half black, half white people. They look mixed. And guess what? There are biracial Latinos. They can have a black parent who is a Latino and a white parent who is a Latino. Yes, there are white Latinos and Hispanic. You can be as white as Cameron Diaz and be Hispanic. In fact, Cameron Diaz is a white Latina. She's Cuban, but she's a white woman. There are even Asian Latinos. Yes, Asian Latinos. They are Mongoloid by race, Asian by ethnicity, and Hispanic by culture. Plus, they're from Latin America. A lot of people within Latin America that don't fit the misinformed stereotypes of what a Latino or Hispanic is are being quite vocal. They're letting you know that Hispanic is not a race. They're letting you know that Latino is not a race. They're telling you that you can be a white person and be Hispanic, a black person and be Hispanic, biracial and Hispanic, Native American and Hispanic. You can even be a mixture of a bunch of races and be Hispanic. But will Hispanic ever be a race? No. So does this mean that all the different races within the Hispanic culture and the Latin locations all get along and all see themselves as Latino and Hispanic in one group of people? No. They may all see themselves as Latino because they speak Spanish and live in the same countries, but they definitely don't see themselves as the same, even if they try to delude themselves. White Latinos do indeed treat black Latinos differently. There is definitely racism in Latin American countries as well as colorism. There is skin bleaching, and there's a big push for black people in the Hispanic community to marry and date white Latinos in order to dilute the African blood. Some black people ask me, if they're dating a Puerto Rican, a Dominican, a Panamanian, or a Colombian, are they in an interracial relationship? Well, that all depends on the race of the Hispanic person. So next time someone says someone is Latino or Hispanic, you need to know what kind of Hispanic. Are they a white Hispanic, a black Hispanic, a mixed or biracial Hispanic, a Native American Hispanic, or even an Asian Hispanic? I've put some videos in the description which will help you understand a little more about this topic. So please check them out. Peace, love, and coconut oil.
Hey man, that's racist. Please remember that from now on, brand new never before seen videos, as well as live streams, will only be available on my website, ikyg.com, via a Patreon subscription. ikyg.com is a Black-owned, Black-ran platform, 100% free from censorship. It's the only place where we don't have to worry about what we say and expressing ourselves. Make sure you check out the description and the comment section for important links, as well as information in video form that shows you what benefits you get when you support the site and join my Patreon. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, then don't forget to subscribe and be notified every time I upload a video. For exclusive content and perks, check out my Patreon. This is where we have private live streams, group chats, live Q&As, live phone calls, and open topics. This is a safe space where you can interact with other like-minded people, make friends, send each other direct private messages, and so much more without any trolls. And yes, you get to use GIFs and images in the live chats. So what are you waiting for? This is a completely independent website, free from censorship. If you'd like to make a donation towards the site so we can continue to put out the truth without fear of being silenced, then please hit that donation button. It's greatly appreciated. Check out the rest of the site for videos, private and public live streams, find out all the tea, and make sure to utilize the Black Money section of the website. Advertise your business absolutely free to people that look like you, free forever. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at angel_IKYG.